So welcome, Todd and Morgan. Good to be with you guys.
Yes, it is. Thank you for having us.
Yes, I'm getting some feedback. Okay, it seems to have cleared up. Cool. So I wanted to have you guys on because Morgan, I don't know you very well, but Todd, your videos, you're just like streaming 24/7. I just like, do you sleep? So I wanted to share Soulogy with more people because you're just really supporting the light workers and getting their messages out there. And I think it's so important what you're doing. And so I wanted to share with people who you are, how you came up with Soulogy, how did that all start, what is Soulogy? So just quick introduction here. You gave me like one sentence. Todd and Morgan are a divine conscious couple and the caretakers of an energy called Soulogy. So I'm hoping that you will share just a little bit more with us about what that means.
You want to go ahead?
No, you can.
I have to go ahead? What does that mean? Well, thanks for having us on. What does it mean? Well, you know, I was given the name Soulogy in 2012 on March the 10th, which is her birthday. But I wouldn't meet her for 3 years, yeah. And 2 days later, I opened a Soulogy group. And when I went in to write on the description, I've erased it since then. I remember writing, Soulogy is not an organization or a religious institution, it's an energy. So I didn't even know what I was writing, but if we fast forward to today, and there's, I guess, a lot of stuff in the middle. So it is an energy, it's a golden child, really. When we came together after our obvious energetic connection, sometime long before September 3rd, 2015, when we actually met and talked to each other, it's become its own, it's a golden child. It speaks to us, it communicates with us. It's composed of our divine love and many other people. And it doesn't really fit into a 3D box.
Yeah.
We actually had a pretty incredible, well, we always have an incredible dimensional activity all day long, but we've been on a really, really powerful ride the last 10 days or so, which is the convergence of the divine masculine horizon, the divine feminine, having faith and trust collectively. And we're a reflection of that. But in addition to that, the creation of a third energy and what's happening with it. We actually saw a really cool something in the sky that kind of reflects it all. Do you want to talk about it?
Are you referring to the golden child?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to the story in terms of how Soulogy introduced itself to us, which was actually in the summer of 2018. It came to us with as a golden tree and started speaking to us about 3 or 4 days after Morgan arrived the second time she came. This is the third time. It told us a lot of things, but very recently what's happened is there's been like a transition over the last few days where it's kind of exploding in the ethers, and it's shown us that, and it's shown us basically, again, we don't really follow a 3D path. We know 3 things. We were told 3 things in the summer of 2018, and that was to be together, to love each other, and to broadcast. That was it. You know, just broadcast as much as possible. As Morgan used to tell me all the time when she left the country, why aren't you broadcasting? Broadcast, broadcast, broadcast. That's what we were told. And so those 3 things were the main things that we were told.
Well, no, actually, there's another thing you were told, and that was Soulogy, the energy that spoke to us, said that it was the platform for all of the voices, that that we're the original two caretakers, that many aunties and uncles and more caretakers would come. And actually it presents as she, doesn't it? The energy presents as she. She said, this is a platform for the voices of all of my children, and I want all of my children to be heard.
Particularly the goddess energy.
Yeah.
In all incarnations.
And when you talk about the golden child and Soulogy, those are the two in the same thing. That's the same thing.
Yeah. Will we talk about how it was birthed?
Yeah.
Okay, so Todd was given the name 6-7 years ago.
Yeah, 7 years ago.
And so he was just broadcasting by himself and talking about his own journey or whatever. And then when I met him, I started saying, you need to start bringing other people in. We need to, start people sharing their tools, sharing their stories, their journeys, to actually get it out there. And so he started doing that. Then the last time I was here, we had committed to, is this okay for me to talk about, to celibacy?
Yeah, we've talked about it before.
Okay. We had committed, we're 100% committed to celibacy. We said we're going to meet, there's no expectations, there's no nothing, we're just going to work together and see what happens here. And there was this one particular day that we got specific instruction that Todd, this is funny to say, and I hope you're okay with it, but we were given specific instruction that Todd had to spend time on my right breast. He wasn't allowed to do anything else. He just had to completely focus on the right breast. From his love, coming into me, a portal opened up, and that portal was sustenance and trust.
Yeah.
And straight after that is when, because any time that we're together, we can just touch hands and all these golden particles start up. So all these golden particles started up, and it created a tree that actually spoke to us and told us it was our golden child, that it was like the tree of life. It was its own entity, that it would instruct us that we had birthed it together into its own palpable energetic form. And that was Soulogy, and then gave us all the instructions on everything after that.
That's so cool. So when I talk about two people coming together and having sex, I talk about how there's something created every time, whether it's the same partner or a different partner. There is a new energy that is co-created and that lasts forever.
Yeah, but we didn't even have sex, Susie.
That's what I'm getting at. Like, you didn't even have physical sex. You had some sort of, what would you call it, cosmic sex?
Sacred sex.
The sacred sexual energy. We've been practicing Helios Gamos for many years. For the full 2.5. Well, at that point, 2.5 years.
Yeah, Well, we met almost 1.5 years in the physical after we met, and so we had Helios Gamos many times. So we had sacred sex in the ethers many times. No, not anything cyber, not anything like that.
For us, that was merging all of our chakras consciously together, which would expand both of us.
Yeah.
And so with those chakras merging, a third energy was always created.
Yeah.
Is it the gold that's created, or is it different?
It was initially it was always golden particles, and anything that either of us wanted, like, somehow she directs the golden particles to where it's going to go. And then at times, sometimes it's golden liquid. But that golden energy that you can actually align with, especially, the two conscious human energies, it doesn't matter, what the physical form is, but the masculine energy and the feminine energy coming together create the golden particles or golden liquid. And she seems to be the one that directs where all that love, his love that merges with her, goes.
Amazing. Love it. So that energy is underlying Soulogy on every interview that you broadcast.
Yeah.
everything that you do, that golden energy is underlying all of it.
Yes, but more importantly, all of the people that come are adding to it as well. So all the love that's poured into it by their sharing, by their openness, adds to it as well. So it's not just us. Yeah. It's everybody that comes onto it is adding to it constantly. And we were told last May that as all that's added in, whoever is a part of it receives it at the same time as well.
Yeah. There's been so many people, like even recently, I won't name names, but they send me messages or Morgan messages. I'm talking about people that have been on the show as guests, and they're so affected by it. I would say they don't always consciously know, or maybe they don't know it's at that third energy, but I've seen it. I've seen it in the energetic fields.
They can feel it.
Yeah, and
they're
it's
reporting like massive transformation just from having been on the show, or sometimes even just booking to go on. They connect with the energy of Soulogy.
And then the other thing that's very interesting, since I'm 99% of the time in front of the camera, and Morgan comes on every now and then, is every day we receive love and support contributions every day. And the messages have evolved. And even though she's not the face out there, somehow energetically they know, because I would say 1 out of every 2 messages that mentions me always mentions her. It'll say, thank you, Todd and Morgan, you know, and so that tells me something too. That tells me that there's a collective telepathy that Soulogy, the energy of Soulogy is that effective. And very recently, it went from, I would say, like a cocoon stage to these last few days, what we saw.
It's a baby. It's been a baby, and it's let us know that it's now a toddler, and our job is to support it, not to control it. Like, we've got to parent it in a really conscious way.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love the analogies. You know, it's this baby being birthed, and now it's growing up and expanding. And I'm curious, when you interview people, when you have people on the show, can you see the colors that they contribute?
I think, you know, everyone sees things differently, but I can tell you just from a personal standpoint, like Morgan and I, we you know, she'll watch most of the shows, but there's so many she can't watch them all. And so, but she is like the producer. You know, she's like the producer. She's just sets it all up, and I just have to plug in and go. And so we always say, yeah, wow, did you catch that? Yeah, did you catch that? Did you see? Plus, we have some personal interaction with the people, like through messages, so we pick up on all that. But on the show itself, it's been a really wild evolution, because I used to hear I'd hear the human and the higher self. And then there would be a lot of, not ups and downs, but there was like, it's all inclusive. But we started to notice that there was certain shows that were very fluid and certain shows that were more, no, I would say that there was a process where Soulogy told us that anything that's not a pure love vibration will just fall away. So we actually watched that. And since that's occurred with the shows as they progressed, I see a lot more than the higher self and the human. I see multidimensional stuff. I do see colors sometimes. I see a lot of glitches on the screen. I see some crazy stuff. I've seen 3 or 4 people. I've seen an extraterrestrial aspect, shape-shifting.
What's the wildest thing you've ever seen while interviewing?
I think the wildest thing that ever happened, and there was a lot of things that happened, was the first time Grace Solaris was on, and we did about an hour and 15 minutes, and in the last 10 minutes, she at the time was really connecting to Mother Mary, who's always connected really with me since I was a little kid. Anyway, there was a soul brother sister kind of thing happening, but I asked her for everybody, would you go into, would you give us a message? And she did. And she asked, actually, the screen went white and she almost transcended in front of everybody. Yeah, it's like the last 10 minutes of that show. And that's probably the one you could put your finger on because there was a physical evidence, right?
I love that. That's so beautiful. When you're sitting in the seat, when you're sitting in the interviewer seat, how do you come up with questions to ask? Because my experience of you is that you're a really good interviewer. You ask really great questions. How do you know what to ask? Is it just intuitive? It just kind of comes to you in the moment?
Yeah, it's funny because it's 800 plus episodes. And when we actually started was early 2017, but I didn't really start doing a lot until the summer of 2017. So out of 850, whatever, there's probably 30 or 40 in the first half of 17. But when it started, we did a couple of shows and then I did some other people. We got into the summer. And one day she said to me, have you ever noticed when you stroke your beard as somebody's talking, she said, have you ever noticed that? And I think when you're doing that, you're actually tuning in to at the higher level. So yeah, to answer your question, it is very intuitive. It comes very natural. Yeah, now it does. It comes more natural because
not only that, but you also set the intention with all of the shows that you're going to speak to their higher self. So he opens up his energetic field to include them. And so it is a higher self, as much as it can be, conversation. It doesn't always work. Every now and again, people are so scared or nervous or whatever, they stay in that lower, their human selves. But Todd's intention sends out an energetic invitation to step it right up.
And you do too. When she does too, when she messages people, she actually does the same thing.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Tell us a little bit about the mission of Soulogy. We, kind of like glazed over it in the beginning, but tell us, what is the deep mission of Soulogy, and what is it doing for the planet?
Well, do you want to go on that one?
All right.
Go ahead.
Our understanding of the deep mission of Soulogy is to bring all of us together. It's almost like an energetic modem, like a hub, like a center space for all of us to actually start connecting and meeting. I see it very much like a world modem where it's sending out a signal to all these phenomenal magical beings that have been doing so much in solitude and alone for so long, and then the time became right for all of us to start connecting. That's my explanation. You probably got more to add to that.
Well, I almost see it as a light grid. Like, you've established this center point for the light grid, and then every person that you interview, every person that watches it, is connecting into this light grid and creating their own little node of light that connects to each other, to you, to me, to whomever's speaking, to whomever's listening and receiving. And really all over the globe, you're international. So it's all over the world where this light grid is lighting up with Soulogy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm getting lit up. It's funny because intuitively I knew from the very beginning, because for the first 4 or 5 years, I managed the thing every single day. I mean, I'm talking about the Soulogy group on Facebook. I started doing videos a week before I met her, which would have been 2 or 3 years into it, right? And I started coming out every day, but I always understood one thing, that it was all inclusive. So I would personally approve, and I approved 99% of everything, because as long as it had a oneness message somewhere in it, I let people put whatever they wanted to, right? And I always knew to protect what went out there. And even when I started doing videos, which was very scary because it was back in the day when nobody was doing them, and it just happened. And then other people started doing videos, and then it just expanded and expanded and expanded. So I see it as that. What I didn't know what it was is what I was later I understood what it was, because of the Mother Goddess incarnation in my life, that, because we know the feminine is like a transmitter, the masculine is like the doer, and she creates by her imagination what he puts into the physical matter. So I came to understand very clearly that its role was to bring out that mother goddess voice that is in every single person. And we're starting to see it in the men. And this is really exciting for me because I know this is the last leg of it. Because we're living it. And I see that as the direction of Soulogy, which is really basically a universal balance between the two genders and converging the non-physical and the physical.
When you say the last leg of it, I hear myself echoing. When you say this is the last leg of it, what do you mean by that?
I mean that I met Morgan in September 2015. I didn't know anything about Ascension. I didn't know nothing. I'd been on my own for 4 years. I'd been celibate. I'd been on the streets. I'd been through a lot of stuff like all of us. And I just started doing this stuff as I was guided to on Facebook. And then I met her September 3rd, 3:33 in the morning, my time. And within 3 or 4 weeks, I started seeing all this stuff written about the divine feminine has landed. Boom, the eagle has landed. And so 2015, 2016, 2017, you saw a lot of that. And it wasn't until maybe the last half of last year, you started to see things about the divine masculine or sacred masculine. And what I'm talking about, this, my opinion, it's not even, I don't know if it's even her opinion, but it's my opinion, that he's come in now. And maybe a small proportion of his collective energy, but he's here. And this is what we're all doing internally. And we're all here in a duality, taking it to the Trinity power, which is that golden child when the masculine and feminine come together. And I really believe, when I say the last leg of it, really it's more of like the beginning. It's the end of the old and the beginning of the new.
I got you. We do talk a lot about the divine feminine rising, and it's time for the divine feminine to come back. How do we summon the divine masculine to come back into his fullness?
That's got to be a question for me.
I could probably answer you too.
Well, you can both share.
It's the same answer, I guarantee.
Okay. For me, it actually works opposite to what we think. You sit back and you do nothing. You let him go through his own stuff and you be true to yourself and you share all of your tools of how you did it yourself with him and you leave him to it. You let him grow up alone. You stop mothering him and you stand in your own power. That's how we summon him. That's my opinion.
That was so beautiful, Morgan.
Well, that's what I did, and look what I got.
So I would say the same thing. And what it really is, and what I would tell any sister out there, I would tell her. Even I had a conversation with my daughter, my youngest daughter, and what I've learned from the goddess energy really is that she has to stand in her power, because if she doesn't stand in her power, he never will. And that's really would be my short version from the street of saying it. She has to stand in her power, and that takes care of everything, because he's either going to shift or get off the pot, one or the other. You know what I mean?
And there is another bit too, and that is I recognized very, very early that whatever he was going through was a picture of my own divine masculine, where that was at. So I owned it, and so I came up with this I don't know, very powerful command, I guess. If I saw him going through something, the old 3D woman in me would want to say, "What are you doing? Grow up," or "Stop being a victim," or or but I didn't. I went, he's presenting my hidden masculine to me. That is me. So then I'd say, I am not having a relationship with, for example, victim consciousness, not in myself or any other. And thank you, it is done. And instantly it freed me, it separated me, or it detached me from what he was going through. It didn't matter if it took hours or days or weeks. I was able to hold the space for him to get it. But as soon as I detached from it, like a rubber band, the energy went ping back to him, and he felt all of it. There was no one else for him to project it onto, because I wouldn't buy into it.
Yeah.
It was very cool and actually quite easy to hold the space for him.
Yeah. It was easy.
That's so good. No, this is really important, because this is something as women who are beginning to be in their power, as women who are in their power, and maybe they have men in their life who are not. We sometimes, like, we shift polarities and go into the masculine to try to make up for it, or to try to get them to come back into their power. And so I love how you so eloquently described it. You don't do anything. You let him figure it out. And but you are doing something, you're holding the space for it. And that's powerful.
But first, I think you own it as your own. I mean, there were so many things Todd was doing going through that I hadn't been through, but it didn't matter to me. I thought, if he is my divine masculine, it's mine anyway. So I owned all of it as my own. I owned it, I cleared it as my own, and then I was able to be completely detached from what he was going through, and the patience I had is mind-blowing.
And I just want to tell everybody, technology angels, could you fix the sound, please? Thank you. That what you're talking about here, Morgan and Todd, is not just in partnerships and romantic relationships. This is universal, because we are in a polarity universe. This is universal. So it's not just me and my partner. This is me as the divine feminine, me as the divine masculine, whichever energy I'm embodying at the moment. That's what we're talking about here, how to work with that in our everyday lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
absolutely a great point. It really is. A lot of my clients will ring up and say, I'm going through this and this and this and this. And, you know, they don't really like hearing, it's not them, it's you. So I just share that powerful command with them. Well, what is it that you think that you're seeing? And by stating, I'm not having a relationship with this energy, not within myself or anyone else, you're actually, the ego can cope with not myself or anyone else. You're actually shifting it in yourself, regardless of what polarity you're in. So yes, you use it everywhere with everything, and it's like a ownership of every single thing that you're creating.
Yeah, it's your end. It's your end of the Holy Triad. And she told me when we met that she received, 15 years ago, that we're in an age of duality, moving into an age of the Trinity, and that's why she has this. What is this called?
Taurus.
Yeah, Taurus.
It's the 3 loops.
So it's the 3 loops, the Trinity, and so what you're saying is right. Everything is like Tesla said, 369. We saw a bunch of 369 last night, 369, 369. That's the math now in this quantum field. So you're right. It's every single person. But when you have whatever relationship you have, whatever it may be, romantic or not, that's closest to you, that's where you're going to see the most. And what she said to me, this would be like just a couple of months ago, after 3+ years, and she starts to tell me some things that she couldn't tell me back then, because I would have stayed in ego, like I knew it was you or whatever the case is. But she said to me, I said, well, how the hell did you, because I wasn't easy. I wasn't hurtful, but to myself, and pretty wild, and did some wild things. And she didn't understand that. She was very prim and proper. And so she said to me, I had to own everything in you early on. I had to own everything in you. And so what happened was, over the last, this is the 3rd trip, each one of them's been a stage. The first stage, I was very shadowed. The second stage, we had a divine conscious ceremony. I made a lot of progress. The masculine, we got married. the masculine made a lot of progress. I followed that collective energy. And then really everything's come full circle now. And what really was the biggest thing for me is no matter what happens with her, it's never her, it's always me. So if there's a discomfort, it's the same rule of the road for all of us for everything, but the power of the Trinity is going to begin with those circles closest to us. And I think that's the only difference. It could be a romantic relationship, or it could be a mother and a daughter. It could be two best friends.
Yeah. So coming full circle with the mission of Soulogy. Sorry, I did it. I said Soulogy.
It's okay.
Soulogy. It's so funny. Coming full circle with the mission, you're really transcending polarity. That's really what it's all about. Because when we transcend polarity, then we have our heaven on earth. Then we have our utopian ideals. Then we have a peaceful place to live on this planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not only that, but when we actually take responsibility and do it in ourselves first, and it doesn't matter if you're doing it alongside a partner, or it really doesn't matter. Once you hit that space and you're transcending everything within the self, you actually open yourself up then to create a mirror. And whether that mirror is at the same place of you or not, it doesn't matter. But you actually, you create an invitation to the universe that says, I'm now ready for a mirror of this less dualistic person that I'm becoming. So even though Todd still had a lot of shadow when I met him, because I'd done what I did, I was able to hold the space for him to take all the time in the world that he needed to do it.
And we're starting to get I'm starting to get a perspective, because I've known all along. I've told her for the past year, I want to help the masculine transform, which really is me saying to myself, I want to transform. And so the perspective is really interesting now, because I can see the two separate paths. And I feel that as it's starting to expand now, that suppressed feminine voice within the masculine incarnations primarily, it's not always gender related or gender affiliated, but I'm seeing that voice come out of myself and other men. And it's extraordinary, because he has sacred wisdom too. And so this is what's really getting exciting. And so, yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, thank you. The divine masculine has so much sacred wisdom. I mean, we need both. We need both because we are in a polarity universe. We need the divine feminine and the divine masculine. It's part of the whole thing. And like you said, the Trinity, the more that we have integrated the divine masculine with the divine feminine, the more that Trinity can come into power. So I really love these ideas that we've been talking about today. And I really am so grateful for this platform that you've set up to have people share their voice, to have light workers come forward and say, this is what I know, this is what I have to share. And this time on the planet right now, we need that so much for light workers to be able to say, I have something to share, and to have a platform for them to share it, because our voices historically have been suppressed, they've been lost, they've been cut out. And so for our voices to now come back, to rise up again, thank you so much for providing a platform for us to do that. And I want to say, I know you have a donation platform. Is it PayPal? If someone wants to donate to Soulogy, how do they do that?
Yeah, it's PayPal. It's
okay.
PayPal. And I don't know by heart.
That's okay.
I think it's PayPal me or PayPal.me at Soulogy One Studios, something like that, or / I don't know.
You can go put it in the comments under the video.
Yeah.
So that support what you're doing.
And I just want to say too, to your question, which the three of us were talking about the full circle, is that really we don't know anything, none of us. We have some memories of where we came from, but how it all works and this and that. But one thing that seems to be clear is that this whole thing about internal balance is a timeless thing. It's something that's been with us. We know that from somewhere else. But to actually hit that spot and then create it in the mirror of the physicality that we all share, I think that's really what the full circle is. I think that's the little holy triad. So it's you and me, or you and Morgan, or me and Morgan, and these little, what looks like couplings, you know, two people connecting becomes three energies, and it just starts to explode. And I think that's really what the full circle is. And again, it's not only in a divine union, it's like you said, it's in really any and every relationship. Yeah.
Any final words that you want to share?
Yes, I want to. I have spent the last 3 days feeling like a little girl. And I've not felt like that with Todd before, but I've watched him, the true divine masculine, and I don't know if it's done or not. We never know if it's done, but you know, I've really watched the divine masculine step up in the most powerful way in the last 3 days, that it's been making me feel like a little girl. I had to go and buy some high heel shoes to try to feel bigger next to him. But what I've been watching is, you know, the divine feminine has been coming up for years, and it's been getting faster and faster and faster. But what I've observed in the masculine energy in the last few days has just been mind-blowing. You know, I always felt energetically bigger than Todd, and I've been feeling like I'm driving this show at the moment. But in the last few days, I've watched the divine masculine energy really step up. Now, we know that we do everything consciously. And so what we expect to see, I guess, over the next few days or few weeks is so many more masculine voices coming up into their power and actually showing themselves to us.
Yeah.
Love it.
Thank you for having us.
It's so neat. Yeah, thanks for taking time to share with the community today. And those of you watching, please share this video with others, spread the word about Soulogy. Let's make this light grid bigger. Let's, you know, have the light be shining brighter and add more lights to the light grid so that we can really infuse this planet with love and light and everything we're here to do. So thank you so much, Todd and Morgan. I really appreciate both of you.
Thank you, Susie.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. All right. See you guys later.
Okay.